Hello, good evening and welcome to News Central TV. My name is Mazino Peel. And here are some stories making rounds beyond the continent this evening. We begin the news in Liverpool, where a suspected terror attack took place. Just moments ago, a driver rammed a vehicle into a crowd of football supporters marching through Liverpool city centre to celebrate the club's record-equalling 20th Premier League title victory. Eyewitnesses told News Central that the parade has already gone sour, with 7 persons killed in the incident, and the driver of the said vehicle reportedly arrested, although News Central cannot independently verify that. That is the arrest of the driver. But what we do know is that the revelling crowd have gone from joy to agony as the surprise attack that has put a dent on their celebratory procession. Many more have also been reportedly wounded from the attack. Away from that now, Iran has ruled out a temporary halt to uranium enrichment as a condition for a nuclear deal with the U.S. A foreign ministry spokesperson said that on Monday, adding that no date has been set for a 6th round of talks. The negotiations between Washington and Tehran aim to resolve a decades-long dispute over Iran's nuclear ambitions, and both sides have taken a tough stance in public over the issue of Iran's uranium enrichment. Reacting to reports that Iran could freeze enrichment for 3 years to reach an agreement, spokesperson Ismail Baghei told a press conference that Iran will never accept that. He also ruled out the possibility of an interim nuclear deal with the U.S., dismissing media reports that a provisional agreement was being considered as a temporary step towards a final deal. Now, meanwhile, Iran has slammed France for filing in a case against it at the International Court of Justice over the detention of 2 French nationals in conditions Paris describes as inhumane. Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghei said the step was pointless, adding that Iran had the right to defend itself. 2 French nationals, Cécile Houle and Jacques Paris, have been held for 3 years by Iran on spying charges, but the pair have vehemently denied the claim. The French government considers them to be state hostages of the Islamic Republic. Houle, a 40-year-old literature teacher from eastern France, and her partner Jacques Paris, in his 70s, were arrested on May 7, 2022, on the last day of a tourist trip to Iran. And still in the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned on Monday that if Israel were to relinquish Jerusalem, the consequences would be a massacre far worse than the events of October 7th. Netanyahu, who declared that they will not allow the destruction of their nation to happen, made these remarks during a special cabinet meeting held at the city of David, an archaeological site in East Jerusalem. The event marks Jerusalem Day, commemorating Israel's capture of East Jerusalem, including the Old City and its sacred sites for Jews, Christians, and Muslims during the 1967 Middle East War.
ירושלים היא ציפור הנפש שלנו, היא לב האומה. אם תעקור את הלב מן הגוף, הגוף לא יתקיים. ולכן לא ניתן לאף אחד לעקור את ירושלים מידינו. ירושלים, בירתנו הנצחית, אוחדה מחדש לפני 58 שנים, במלחמת 6 הימים, היא לא תחולק עוד. אנחנו נשמור על ירושלים מאוחדת, שלמה, בריבונות ישראל. והדברים קשורים כמובן גם במלחמה הנוכחית, מלחמת התקומה. אויבינו צמאי האדם, שתקפו אותנו באכזריות נוראית ב7 באוקטובר, קראו לטבח הזוועות שהם ביצעו מבול אל-אקצא, תופן אל-אקצא. היום הם כבר מבינים היטב את גודל מבול החורבן שנפל עליהם, והם הביאו אותו בעצמם, על עצמם. אם חלילה נוותר על ירושלים, נקבל טבח גדול פי כמה. בעצם נקבל את חיסול האומה. ולא ניתן לזה לקרות.
And now going back to our previous story on Iran, halting temporary, or rather, on Iran ruling out a temporary halt to uranium enrichment. I beg your pardon. We brought that story to you previously, and now we're joined by Ejike Opa, Global Affairs Analyst in Dallas, Texas. Ejike, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Great. So,
A happy Memorial Day on our side of the pond.
Yes, indeed. Now, educate the Iranians are speaking with a boldness that wasn't there in Trump's first term, and Republicans like you blame the Democrats for the way things have turned out. Where do you see this deal heading?
Well, you know, every country has a right to defend their position, especially for what they think they need in order for them to, maintain their sovereign right. So what Iran is doing is not surprising to me. They say, they are not going to accommodate what President Trump, said that, the development of the uranium is, for civilian use for their own national thing. So in a negotiation like this, what you're going to see is, it's a back and forth kind of thing until a compromise is reached. So we don't know where this is going to head. But I believe in Iran, the pressure on them based on the sanction on their oil is probably going to make them give up something. But we don't know for sure. But the first thing they're going to do is to maintain, we're not going to do this. And then you come back and then we talk again, and we come back and we talk again. So this has been ongoing. So it's not surprising that they're saying they're maintaining the position they have taken.
But what Iran has now said sounds like talks or no talk. We're marching on with our business. What real muscle does America have to keep the Iranians from making their own nukes?
America doesn't really have that. What America is, saying is that America, is concerned that if, Iran is to have the nuclear power, that could just, cause, arm race in the region. And then, when you have that with countries who may not have a whole lot of, internal control, you could just have, explosive situation, tension. So that is America's concern. And, it is more like an assumption for fear that, because Iran and Israel don't have, good relationship. This could just one day somebody push a button and all of a sudden the whole world is drawn into a war that shouldn't have existed. So Iran is saying, hey, we have the right to do it, and they have the technology to do it, and North Korea has been able to do what North Korea has done and still get away with it. So Iran is saying, hey, why interfering? On the business side, the only way America sees any angle, to put them at least off is to make it harder for them to get some of the things they need or sell their oil, because Iran has a lot of oil there, but they haven't been able to sell it. Or sometimes when they sell it, the money is seized somewhere. At the time, I think Obama released some billions of dollars of Iranian money held in U.S. and he gave the justification that, hey, this is their money, they should get it. And then, Biden came in and Trump came in, and it's been back and forth. And that's the only way you can do it. But as to the knowledge, they have the knowledge to do this thing. They don't have to go to the West to do it. They have their domestic knowledge base to be able to develop a nuclear power, and America can stop them from doing that.
So, Ejike, your question to you personally now: do you believe that Iran should have its own nukes?
Well, I believe in countries supposed to have what they need in order for them to be viable to themselves and relevant, except when there is an obvious danger or fear that they're using this thing in order to either cause a regional harm or even harm to their own people. But you can't suppress knowledge. You remember, this is one of those things when you acquire it. Nobody can. If not Korea, that everybody has isolated, except for a few countries that have given them, diplomatic relations can do this. They are able to do it because, again, they're able to design and build this nuclear thing. So Iran has shown they can do it despite all the tension that has existed with the West and their regional partners. So what you got to do is to find a way to accommodate and tolerate them, or get into an agreement that said, okay, you can have it, but you can't use it for a war. But if a country feels they're going to be attacked, they're going to rely on any weapon system they have in order for them to put up a fight. So yes, I believe, but then we have to go to terms and begin to say, hey, you cannot use it to, cause a war or, instigate a war or fight in a war. So we'll see what that is going to lead to. Trump is open to negotiation. Trump is open to getting some things done so that, the tension is not there.
If you're saying that they can have it yet not use it, so what's the point then?
Well, I mean, what is that? India has nuclear power, but in India, nobody's concerned India is going to, launch it. Pakistan has it. Remember, there was a tension between the two countries, but nobody was even thinking about, okay, somebody's going to go push a button. So there are many countries that have nuclear power, but, you are concerned about it. It's just like gun. Gun don't kill people. People use gun to kill people. So what is going on here is Iran may be in a position where, hey, because they are within distance of Israel and, they can just push a button and then the whole thing start to explode. That is the concern, but it's not proven. There's a tension, between many countries in the Middle East, and that's what we are trying to say, hey, can we have some sense of stability and some sense of purpose, knowing that, okay, you have it, but you're not going to use it. So, but if it's for their own civilian use, for their power or whatever it is, nuclear power gives you, why not? It's just, again, you keep an eye on all the countries in the world. Everybody keeps an eye on, what is their name? North Korea, but it hasn't stopped them from doing what they do. Sometimes they just shoot those things into the ocean to say, hey, we have it. Sometimes in order for you to stop war is to let the other side know, hey, you don't mess with me. If you do, I'm going to push a button.
Show of force, I guess. Ejike, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. In the meantime, Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese on Monday said that it was an outrage that Israel is withholding humanitarian aid from Gaza. Albanese told reporters in Canberra that Israel's actions are completely unacceptable. Israel blocked all food, medicine and fuel from entering Gaza for 2.5 months before letting a trickle of aid enter last week after experts' warnings of famine and pressures from some of Israel's top allies. Israel is pursuing a new U.S.-backed plan to control all aid to Gaza, but the American heading the effort unexpectedly resigned on Sunday, saying it had become clear that his organization would not be allowed to operate independently. The United Nations has rejected the plan.
Completely unacceptable. It is outrageous that there be a blockade of food and supplies to people who are in need in Gaza. We've made that very clear by signing up to international statements. I made it clear in a discussion that I had with the President of Israel, President Herzog, in Rome just days ago. I made it very clear that Australia finds these actions as completely unacceptable, and we find Israel's excuses and explanations completely untenable and without credibility. People are starving, and the idea that a democratic state withholds supply is an outrage. Now, that is my clear position. It's one I've indicated clearly and directly to the Israeli government. It's one that will continue to be a part of international statements as we were last week. Hamas, a terrorist organisation who should have no role in the future of
Norwegian Foreign Minister Espen Eid has described the situation in Gaza as catastrophic and beyond belief. Speaking during a news conference in Amman with his Jordanian counterpart, Ayman Safadi, Eid said, "What is going on in Gaza is totally unacceptable and that it has to end." His comments were echoed by Safadi, who said that Jordan shares Norway's firm position on international peace and the Palestinian issue. The news conference followed a meeting between the two ministers who discussed efforts that must be made to stop the fighting between Israel and Hamas and allow aid into Gaza Strip.
I want to start by saying that the situation we are seeing now in Gaza is catastrophic. It is beyond belief. It is totally unacceptable. It has to end, and we need to deal immediately, by the hour, to get humanitarian aid into Gaza, to work for a ceasefire. Norway was the first Western countries to call for a ceasefire very quickly after this round of war started. And we are acutely aware that while it has been a terrible war in Gaza over these last 19 months, it's just the latest expression of a problem that will come over and over again if we don't deal with the real issue, which is the absence of a Palestinian.
We're going on a short break now. When we get back, more news from beyond the continent. And we take a break from matters from beyond the continent to head to Nigeria's Niger Delta region, where we have information that some 6 students, kidnapped students who were writing their West Africa school certificate examination, have regained their freedom. We'll now go to News Central correspondent Biola Festus to give us details. Biola, good evening. Can you give us an update on the situation, please?
Good evening, Mazrino. Yeah, on the 6th of this month, some YS students who were on their way to sit for the exams, their boats was hijacked. Now, we had 13 passengers on that boat, and 6 of the 13 passengers were the YS students. So this evening, we got an information that they had been released through the effort of King Aksari Dr. the King of Calabari. So we do not really have much information about the circumstances surrounding their release. But what we do know is that there was a raid at the camp of the suspected kidnappers, or sea pirates, if you could call them. Now, these people, their families told us that they are yet to be released to them, or they are yet to be united with them, because they are still in the custody of the DSS personnel that helps with the raid. This was what they told me earlier. Now, at the relay house, this is usually their meeting point. This place is very, very close to the waterfront where they boarded the boat, and their boat was hijacked some 20 days ago. So we've been seeing videos of them being released. Most of them are teenagers. From the videos that we've seen circulating online, we could see that some of them had swollen faces, indicating that they were probably beaten. We do not really know what kind of thing they went through in the hands of the kidnappers. But in the morning, tomorrow morning, their families asked us to come back, that they will be reunited with them. But you know.
Well, Biola, thank you very much for giving us that update. It's good to see that at least they have been released. We'll continue to come to you for more detail on the situation. Thank you very much, Biola. Back to matters beyond the continent, to the Ukraine war now. Russian President Vladimir Putin has held talks with Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, who arrived in Moscow on Monday for a 2-day visit. Earlier on Monday, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov thanked Turkey for hosting the previous round of Russia-Ukraine talks. He said that Putin may also discuss its military offensive on Ukraine as the country launched its biggest drone attack overnight. On the 3rd straight night of significant aerial bombardments, U.S. President Donald Trump lashed out at Russian leader Vladimir Putin, saying he had gone crazy by stepping up attacks on Ukraine. But in the meantime, the European Union's Commissioner for Defense and Space, Andrius Kubilius, has accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of neither being interested in a ceasefire nor peace. Kubilius, who said this during his visit to Italy, said the bloc and the United States must put more pressure on Moscow to end the war in Ukraine. Russia launched its biggest drone attack against Ukraine overnight, part of an escalating bombing campaign that has further dashed hopes for a breakthrough in efforts to end the 3-year-old war. This month alone, Russia has broken its record for aerial bombardments of Ukraine 3 times. I'll bring matters back to Nigeria here, where earlier we brought you information about the FCTA sealing up facilities in the capital. Well, the FCTA are bringing an update and briefing pressmen on that regard currently, so let's take a listen.
For the benefit of the people. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, we'll now move to the question and answer section. Please, if you have any questions, raise your hand. We'll take 3 questions maximum, please. New Central.
Okay, good day, sir. My name remains Amadin New Central. Now, there was something we observed today, which you have also highlighted in your press briefing, that several people purchased this property and did not receive the communication because their documents were not regularized, because the FCTA was dealing with the original old people that purchased this land title. Now, you have just given a public giving an instruction for residents of the FCT who want to check their land documents to know whether they are defaulted or not, so that they can pay within this grace period that you have announced. How can they access this information?
You talked about residents.
Property owners.
So I would assume you are talking about property holders.
Yes.
Any property holder should be able to know if he has paid for his right of occupancy bills or not. If you have done so, you expect to have been issued a certificate of occupancy. If you have not received that, you should have approached the Department of Land Administration to ask why that hasn't been done. So, any landholder knows that by holding a letter of offer of statutory right of occupancy, that doesn't mean that you own that property fully until you get a certificate of occupancy. And you cannot have that without payment of the right of occupancy bills, which people call certificate of occupancy bill. It's the same thing. But for ground rent payments, it's an annual payment which falls due on the 1st of January every year. If you are unsure as to the status of your ground rent payments, you should approach the Department of Land Administration, present your evidence of title to the land or property, and you'll be issued an updated ground rent bill. So every landholder, every title holder is free to go to the Department of Land Administration to obtain that information. Thank you.
Dear colleagues, I want to make an appeal to each and every one of us. We all know that the FCT administration has commenced the enforcement of the over 4,000 property-owned ground rent. And from this latest development here, we also have an update that the present intervention, a 14 days window has also been given. I think this is a straightforward question. Because of time, if people will allow me so that we can go and find this story. This is a straightforward question, story that if you permit me, I want the briefing should end here so that we can go and find our story. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Seen from just there, the FCTA, a briefing pressman on the repossession of land in the FCT. Now, that's all we can take on Beyond the Continent this evening. Now, do remember that you may send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on your screens now. And of course, to follow us on social media, we are at News Central TV. You may watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422.